Welcome everybody to Panfish Nation along with Mark. I'm Lyle. And Mark, we got a guest here that I'm excited about having on our show tonight. Koaws joined us. We'll get to him in just a minute, folks. Get any questions you have about panfish ready because the guy can answer them. I promise you. We've had a great visit with him before the show started, and we're going to continue once we get going here. But Mark, what do you say we make an introduction to all the people that is in chat?
Why don't we talk about what's going on? It doesn't look like people are chatting in there. If you guys are here, say hello in chat so your names come up and register because I'm just getting a few on here. I see
okay.
channel member, Crappie
Sure.
Day Fish on, Dale Hayslip, Joe Buck channel member. What's up, Joe Buck? Mr. Kim Burnett, how you doing, Kim? Kim's got hats for sale. Contact Kim. I just ordered one from him today.
I didn't see that.
Nubby's Catfish. Go ahead and message him. He'll take care of you if he's got any
I'm
left.
sure he will.
Stephanie's in there. What's up, Stephanie? How you doing, dear? Tim Molina's in the house. Avid Fisherman just spoke up. There's Bugman22. What's up, Bug? How you doing, bud? I think that's what we got in here that are chatting so far. If you guys do notice on the screen, you'll see that even I became a member of the channel for Lyle. So I wanted to make sure that got posted up there so you guys knew that. And the link to becoming a channel member is in the description. I made sure that was there this time, unlike me dropping the ball the last couple of weeks. So if you can't get on with your Apple phone, you can now if you click on that link, and Lyle will appreciate it. Hey, there's the Weekend Angler. What's up, Josh? There's James Albo in the house. How you doing, James? There's Miss Melissa. What's up, Melissa? How you doing, dear? Mod extraordinaire. And I think I got everybody so far.
Avid?
I did say hello to Avid. There's Fish and Freedom channel member. What's up, Fish and Freedom? How you doing, Richard? And I think we got them. If they pop in, we'll say hello like we always do, Lyle.
That's right. Hey, Richard says his hands are full tying jigs, so got one big hello to everyone.
Hey, there's Aaron in the house. What's up, Aaron?
I visited with Stephanie, Richard's wife, the other day, and I know for a fact that we corrupted him into tying jigs. It's become an obsession like it has with so many of us. Oh, Rabbit says he's not wearing glasses anymore. That's awesome. Oh, new Stephanie, the new member. Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you, Stephanie. We appreciate you. It definitely goes to help Lyle and the channel out.
Here's Nina.
I need to address something here.
Okay.
Here, Josh said that I'm no fun. I snubbed Chad in his chat. The truth is, I needed to get him off the phone because I needed to finish up my dinner before the show started. And I had a mouthful of food when I did that. So there you go.
That's a good reason.
Well, Koaw, let's get you in here because I'm excited about having you on the show.
Oh, I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
You have an extremely helpful YouTube channel, and I use helpful because it's the only word that I can really come up with now to describe the way I feel about it, because there's so much information on there from the way you describe each individual type of panfish. Because let's face it, a lot of them kind of look the same, and their correct names besides what we call them, and it's amazing all the research and work you've put into putting these videos out, and I know that you've got some new stuff coming out, but the older stuff that you had is what hooked me on watching your stuff, because things that I thought I knew, I really didn't know as much about them as I thought.
I appreciate that. Like we mentioned before the show here, helpful was my goal. With the Lepomis guide, the common sunfishes, I saw so many of my fellow anglers just kind of misidentifying these species and having a hard time. And I just wanted to offer something that was freely available to all of them and help them out. And I think it's been pretty well received, and I think it's doing its job so far. The hardest part is when dealing with hybrids, because those can get me fooled sometimes. Sometimes you just have to say, without a DNA test, there's no way I can.
Wow.
It's funny that you mentioned DNA tests when it comes to hybrids and stuff. We just recently on one of my local lakes here in Illinois, a young man caught a 3.5 pound crappie. which was a record for the whole chain for the most, or for the lake where he caught it was a record. And they actually sent out the DNA to get tested to figure out if it was a black or a white crappie. Turned out it was a hybrid. So
was it a first generation hybrid?
it didn't say that much in the news article. That's the best I got was the local newspaper. So
that's with the crappies. There's so much hybridization, and then they're when they do hybridize, the hybrids are, they're fertile, so then they can go and mate with a white or a black and keep passing on those genes. So you kind of get eventually down the road you might get, it's like 80% black crappie DNA, 20% white crappie DNA. It can all get very difficult to understand, and especially if you're just trying to ID it by looking at them.
Yeah, it looked like a black crappie. It looked like a plain old black. And then when they said that, I was kind of surprised. I thought, that I didn't realize that crappie do cross whatever breed. I never knew that until this just recently. This happened like 2 weeks ago. It was surprised me. So,
oh yeah, it's the prevalence of it actually has me very hesitant to want to ID people's photos. Just when they come to me and be like, "Is this a black or a white?" I'm like, I don't really want to touch that with a 10-foot pole, because DNA is the only way to give a confident answer sometimes.
You know what answer I like to use a lot?
What?
It depends.
That's a good one. Yeah.
I'm thinking it would taste just as good as any of the rest of them.
I'm sure it did.
That's true.
I mentioned to you earlier that you done a tour to catch the last 13 of the major panfish. And I believe that was right. I think that you liked 13 of having caught all of the major.
Yeah, I had so there are 13 species within the genus Lepimus, and so I wanted to catch them all personally and have my own video and film and data for each one. And then I made that video that you're referring to, that was that journey. And that was a very special journey for me. And I've actually been humbled by how many people have appreciated it, and the comments on it are they're very, very cool, and I love to read them.
Well, we come to know you a little more because you included your dad and your family and friends in that one, mm-hmm. where most of the time you are just teaching people what it is, and you became closer knit with the people that view your stuff because of that, I think.
That's a great point. The story was there. I wasn't just a lecturer. My niece gave me a hard time about that. She's like, "You're always just chatting at the screen." And I'm like, well, I got to do that sometimes.
How old is your niece?
They're 10 and 8 right now.
They probably know more about how to succeed on YouTube than the three of us here combined.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Oh man, I really enjoyed that particular one because, like I told you, you come to my state of Missouri to catch panfish, and
I was over at that Poplar Bluff, and then I was at Dockery Conservation Area.
Yep. And Richard and Stephanie that was in chat, that's where they live, is over in that area.
Oh, that's cool. It's a lovely area.
It is beautiful over there. I've been over there catfishing on the Mississippi River, but I haven't done any of the other stuff. Mm-hmm. And Mingo Wildlife is over there, and several other places. They have big duck reservations and stuff, and some of the best waterfowl hunting in the world is over in that area. So yeah, that's a cool place to be. And man, if you ever get back in Missouri again, we got to get together and do some fishing.
I might actually be close to you. I'm going to go back and get a doctorate here, and I'm looking at SIU, so I might be close to you. in the near future.
Well, you let me know.
I'll let
We'll
you
make a
know.
trip out of it. We'll have a great time. If nothing else, we'll eat good. If you ever see me full figure, you'll understand why I talk about eating good.
He likes to eat as much as I do, so he'll take good care of you. Hey, Lyle, real quick, we got a couple people that showed up in chat here. I see
Sure.
Adventures with Robin C. There's our buddy Van over at B3 Customs. I think I did say hello to Aaron. What's up, Aaron? There's Lance McCoo, the Hawaiian fisherman. I also saw, where'd it go? Miss Melissa came in. How you doing, Melissa? And Potomac River Monsters is in the house. What's up, Smoke? How you doing? And Pontoon Jody. What's up,
Yep.
Jody? Sorry to interrupt, but these people, they get awfully, they like to, when we shout them out, and they're all so important to us, we want to make sure we don't miss them.
Well, we do appreciate them watching the show, and this is one that I think that they're going to really enjoy because, like I said in the beginning, if you guys have any questions for him, Coy, you really are a marine biologist.
Well, I'm formally educated as an evolutionary biologist, and
can you explain the difference of that?
Well, the way you got to look at it is when you're going to school and you're getting a degree, yes, you're gonna basically get a broad degree in the natural sciences, and then it's really once you move up to get masters and doctorates, you start to specialize. So an evolutionary biologist, I've really just taken a good look at how species started, before they were even that species to be what they are today. But over the years, all my private studies, I love fish so much, I focused on ichthyology, which is the biology of fishes. And so that's what I want to get my doctorate in, is something to do with ichthyology, which might probably just be fisheries management.
That'd be great. I know Missouri Department of Conservation is always hiring people like that.
Oh yeah, it's. I mean, it's we got to look at, like, I'm sure everyone in here, they love being outside and fishing. I want a job where I can do that, get paid for it.
Right? Yeah, that's awesome. I know we have a good friend, James Dockery, that although I don't believe he has any formal education, is always my guy that if I got a question about panfish or crappie or any bass, I always go to him because he knows the answers. He catches more fish than anybody I know. But he as much as he knows, I can't imagine where he'd be if he had an education that would have took him places like that. And he works with the Missouri Department of Conservation, but his thing is helping kids catch more fish or shoot bows or teaching people how to cook outside. He does so much for people. You just got to love a guy like that. And his wife, Katie, she does this with him. So I know they was doing an archery thing for kids in Branson last week. So I can quit bugging him all the time now.
That's what it's about. I mean, that's why I made my channel, is I wanted to be a positive influence, and
that's awesome.
I don't need a lot of money, but I kind of hit the point in my life where I do need to start making a little bit more. So it was either go work for the government right now or go pursue a higher degree. So I think I'm going to just do the higher degree.
So how long do you think, how long will it take you to get your degree that you're looking for?
Well, it depends on what school will have me and what I end up wanting to do. Okay. Could be anywhere from, 4 to 6 years. Some people take many, many years to get their doctorate because they end up wanting to do a research on something that they can't finish up in a short period of time.
I see. And
it's highly variable.
You're from the eastern part of the country, so I know there's a lot of great schools out there that would probably love to have you in there. So
yeah, but my incentive for being around Illinois is that's where my family is now.
Mm-hmm.
Where are you from in Illinois? Where's that in Illinois?
Well, my sister and her kids are just west of Chicago. So
if you're ever in town, look me up.
Okay, I'm probably gonna be there soon. Because I'm in Virginia right now, but I'll be moving here to Illinois in 2 months. I'll either end up north or south.
Good to know. I'd be honored to fish with you. I'll show you my local.
That'd be great. Where are you at exactly?
I'm in McHenry County, like halfway between Rockford and Chicago.
Oh, okay.
I'm in Algonquin, Illinois.
Okay. Yeah. That's not far.
Nope, that wouldn't be too far from there.
So, are there any questions yet from?
I haven't seen any. Have you, Mark?
Oh, we had someone ask how to get in touch with you. He's got some specific questions he wanted to ask, so I figured
Yeah,
I sent them to your YouTube page, but I didn't see your contact information on your about page.
Yeah, I just have people send me a message on my website. That way, it filters for spam because I get a lot of spam.
Understood.
So it helps.
And I did post a link to your website as well. So
I'll appreciate that. So, so you had asked me about my next project, and I'm actually,
yes, sir.
I would love to posit this question to your fans and your viewers, is because my next project is I want to discuss and look at the actual research of fishing the spawn of particular. I'm looking at sunfishes, so black basses, common sunfishes, but catfishes also have nests. And so I'm wondering, do you fish the spawn? Do you think it's right? Do you think it's wrong? Do you harvest off the spawn? I'm just curious if anyone has any thoughts on that and they want to share their opinion.
Well, Mark, how do you feel about that?
I just had someone send me a question via text asking if you are going to be at Southern Illinois University, if that's what SIU is.
Yeah, Southern Illinois University. That's the one I'm
That's not too far. That's not too far. We might sneak down to the Mississippi River there below St. Louis, and I introduce you to giant blue cat fishing.
I would love that. I've never caught a giant blue.
If anybody can put you on, and Lyle can do that.
Well, I have a friend of mine that's a guide down there that's better at it than anybody I know. But regardless, I'd love to take you out. We'd be blessed. We'll have a good time.
That sounds good.
But you'll only be 3 hours or so from my house, and I got Lake of the Ozark and Truman and Palm de Terre and Stockton.
They're, I mean, the thing about Missouri is, if you look at that geographically, just because of the Ozarks, you get this break. So you actually get these different native species on where you're at in the state, opposed to the top of the state and then on the bottom of the state. So you actually have a lot of diversity.
That's right.
Various fish species just because of that.
Now, you was over on the southeast side of Missouri, and you had 2 species left to catch, I believe, in your project. Which 2 was those that you caught in Missouri?
So let's see. In Missouri, I was trying to get the red-spotted sunfish and the bantam sunfish. And I did get the red-spotted at Duck Creek, the first one, and then I got some more in Poplar Bluff. But I didn't get the bantam there because I really was going about catching the bantam wrong. I was, like I mentioned in that video, I was expecting so many more of them to be around 4 inches, like big.
Uh-huh.
But no, those are going to be the very rare, big males within those populations that might not even be there. So they're mostly going to be like this. So that's when I went down to Kentucky to go meet up with Jason, that angler. And he kind of explained in his experience that no, they're all tiny. You got to get out the size 18, 20, 22 hooks.
I couldn't tie one of those on
the eyes in them are so small.
Oh yeah. I mean, those, like, if it's cold out and you're trying to do that, no way.
That's awesome.
Josh, the Weekend Angler, says SIU Carbondale is about 15 minutes away. He's coming to some really good fishing areas down there.
There's several lakes that Josh fishes and videos out of down there, and they're awesome for crappie and catfish and different species.
And setting hooks and crossing guys. Ryan says you're going to be right by 100-pound country.
That's right.
I'm seeing a question on the invasive carp in Mississippi. Let's see.
Danny Stone Outdoors says, what do you think with invasive carp in the Mississippi? Will they eventually balance in population and or other species adapt to their presence? I'm talking evolution, ?
I mean, whenever you get an invasive species like the two species we've seen of those new Asiatic carp into the Mississippi, it's not really a question of evolution because those species are not going to be evolving that quickly there. What they're really going to be doing is just displacing other species. So we're already seeing damage to the native carp species, which are really just the big mouth. Because if you think about it, the common carp, that's not native to North America.
Nope.
And my guess would be, I haven't looked at that research specifically, but those new Asiatic carp, the two new species, are probably what are they? The silver carp and the big head.
Mm-hmm.
They're probably displacing many other species just besides the big mouth, and because they're taking so much of a food source. We've all seen those videos of them electroshocking the water, and thousands of them maybe going up at a time.
Just boils with them.
That's right.
The good news is, I mean, you're probably new to right next to this news, but every year I'm always checking to see if they've finally gotten to the Great Lakes. If that happens,
I actually used to, when I worked in a petrochemical business, they were just installing those electronic gates, the electric shock ones to keep them from swimming up the Cal Sag in the Chicago River. So I remember when that whole effort stopped. I do some fishing on Lake Michigan, and I haven't heard anybody seen them there, whether it's on the banks in Chicago or up through Racine and even in the Milwaukee yet. So I don't know what if the dangers are still there or if they're just going to end up not making it that way. I have no idea.
Well,
But
once they start, they usually don't stop.
Well, it's been a bunch of years since they started worrying about this, and the Illinois River's really not that far from where I was working at all.
No,
I figured they could be up there in a year, but they didn't, and I don't think they can explain why they're not there.
It's interesting to see. In the big worry, it's the same worry how they got here in the first place. It's just someone that's gonna legally do it,
yeah,
and just stock them in there.
They should have never been brought over, but that's kind of hindsight now.
Well, I mean, how often does something like that happen where, let's say, somebody who stocked something like that in their own private pond and a flood comes and washes those fish into the waterways?
Exactly.
Or do you think it happens more often where somebody nefariously just puts them in a waterway?
That's the part that worries me.
A lot of times, I think, especially in floodplains, it's a flood. Like I'm out here right now. Have you guys heard of the northern snakehead?
Yep.
So that is just infesting the Potomac right now, and it's in Maryland and Washington D.C. and Virginia, and that was originally I think it was, it was brought over from Asia, kept in a little farm pond, and it just got picked up from that farm pond and flood carried out.
Well, certain communities, snakehead was a delicacy even before anybody knew about them here.
Oh,
so I think they're assuming that happened. Someone was trying to raise them for profit to sell within said community, and they just got away from them. So,
yeah. But it's the interesting thing right now is Maryland. The governor last week declared a state of emergency for the snakehead being there. But the problem is he can't really, there's no research. All the research I've seen so far is they're not able to say that, they're displacing their native fish communities. We know that they're eating primarily fish when they're adults, but we also have to look at that all the largemouth bass, a lot of the other fisheries, the musky, they're not native here. They're primarily piscivorous. It's the thing about most fisheries in North America is we humans have altered them already. So it's always a weird balance and a weird thing to think about.
I agree. That's there didn't used to be musky and pike in Missouri lakes.
Mm-hmm.
They brought them down here because most of the lakes are reservoirs actually built by man in rivers that didn't have them. So for them to get here, they had to be brought here from the northern states. And walleye is another one, a big one.
Mm-hmm.
That's because they're they're more of a northern fish, and now they're all over all the lakes and stuff we have here.
I haven't been looking for other questions. I assume you're doing that, Mark.
I'm looking at questions via text. Somebody wants like a direct line to you here. Let me see what's going on. You guys
Josh
keep talking.
at the Weekend Angler says, got a seat in the boat for him. As soon as he gets here, look me up.
Okay, he's local too then, huh?
He'll be local to you when you go to school at Southern Illinois University.
We'll see. I literally just submitted an application today, so I don't even know.
No, I wish you the very best with that. 'Cause I know some guys that have went to school there,
Yeah.
and they seem to think that it was a pretty good school. So
Yeah, I have an aunt and an uncle that are professors there, so
oh wow,
I know the school is, at least they like it. So
yeah. I can relate. Thank you, Melissa, for posting his link. We appreciate that very much. Now, you're doing some work, or recently have done some work on fish other than bluegill and crappie and stuff like that. Your bluegill stuff and that series that tells the differences in one panfish from the next was extremely well. But you're doing, what was it, walleye I seen the other day, or pike or something?
Esox. So that's the pike family. That is your chain pickerel, grass pickerel, redfin pickerel, muskellunge, and northern pike. So I only did the North American species because I didn't want to. Going into what's in Europe is a whole different thing right now, because they actually, in the last decade, they broke off 2 new species from the northern pike.
Oh wow!
Because the northern pike is circumpolar, so that's in North America, and then it goes into Europe and Russia, right? But then in Italy and I think France are the 2 other new pikes, northern pike species. So I think they call them the southern pike and I forgot the other name. Sorry.
Kim Burnett says they have muskies in Fellow Lake in Missouri. Fellows Lake happens to be one of the water supplies for the city of Springfield, our third largest city, which is just down the road from me and the home of Bass Pro Shops.
Oh, nice. Fellows Lake.
Fellows Lake it's a man-made lake. It's the water supply. There's 3 lakes that actually supply water to Springfield. Fellows Lake and Lake Springfield, and then they have a pipeline that runs from, and I forgot how big it is. I used to know. I want to say 36-inch pipe that runs out of Stockton into Fellows Lake to supply. Because we had a real drought a few years back, and they built that in there so we'd never run out of water. But Stockton seems to have an endless supply for whatever reason, and it was closer.
Pontoon Jody has a question. She says that she noticed you have shorts and videos, but no lives. Is live fishing something you would want to do in the future? I love watching live fishing, or even maybe having like some Q&As live would be something I'd really be interested in, something like that.
Yeah, I've actually I've never done. This is my first live stream of on YouTube of anything. Wow. I have 2 channels, and I've always avoided doing live. So maybe yeah, I could consider doing that in the future.
If you need any help setting it up or anything, just give me a holler, and I'll be more than happy to walk.
Yeah, I might have to contact you with the Q&A of with that. So well, yeah, Jody, I don't know yet. I'll think on it. I will.
You can always contact us. We would love to help you do that. Host anything you want to do too, and then you wouldn't have to do it. You could just do your thing, and we just let you go.
Yeah, I can have you guys be guests on my show one day.
That's right. We do that. We've done that with people, actually.
I have a personal question for you. How easy is it for two genuses or 2 species to intermingle, to crossbreed?
Okay. Yeah, I see what you're saying. So it is tricky when you have one genus and one genus. We just call it genre.
Okay.
And so between genre, those hybridizations are much more rare. So typically it'll be a lot harder for,
obviously, like an Esox or a pike family member isn't going to mix with, let's say, a bass, right?
Exactly.
That's what you mean there.
But
let's say between like a green sunfish and a red breast sunfish.
That's possible. I've actually caught one of those.
Okay.
It was very weird, but all of the leopamids, theoretically, the common sunfishes, so the bluegill, the pumpkin seed, they can all hybridize. Pretty much everything's been tried. It can be done. It doesn't all happen naturally, though. But a lot of researchers in the past, particularly when they were asking about this, did it. But between genre, I know that let's see, crappie have been crossed with black bass, so largemouth bass, and I think it happened. I have the study. I'd have to.
That's okay.
No, but it's in lab conditions. They have created, like, I think maybe bluegill and I'd hate to say that I'm wrong, but no, it is possible. But you really only see that when it's scientists that go and they strip the female of eggs, and then they go strip a male of sperm, and then they do it manually. And
so under like lab conditions rather than in the wild and stuff.
Because if you think about in nature, they recognize you call them barriers. So they're physical barriers, they're psychological barriers. So when a red ear sunfish has got that red ear flapping, right?
Mm-hmm.
A female crappie's not going to look at a male red ear sunfish and be like, oh, I like that. They're going to be like, no, that's the wrong species. So each one of the lepamids has its own signal.
Mm-hmm.
And even they make noises like bluegills. If you got a microphone under the water during a spawn, you'll hear the males just grunting away.
Really?
Yeah. So it's each species has got their own little thing.
Wow.
Does that answer your question? I know
it definitely does. I was going to lead into like describing or explaining the Magnolia crappie, and obviously I'm guessing they get into like public waterways by mistake. But from my understanding and for the little bit of reading I've done on them, they were pretty much created to be pond crappies, so they wouldn't overpopulate farm ponds and such, right? Do they end up being able to reproduce after a while when they do end up in like major waterways?
I have to be straight. I know very little on the Magnolia crappie.
Okay, they're the striped nose crappie.
Oh, the black nose?
The black nose, yeah.
Yeah, that is from my understanding, they're just a different color morph of black crappie. So
see, I've read articles where some college in Mississippi created them to stock farm ponds with, and when they created these hybrids that they were infertile or sterile or not able to reproduce. I don't know what the correct scientific term would be to select for that, but I know a lot of people catch them out, on the rivers and in the lakes. Even out here, they've made their way up north here.
Yeah, if the Magnolia crappie is the black nose and the black nose I'm thinking about, that is just that's a sterile. I mean, that's a totally fertile fish.
Okay, so without DNA tests, we wouldn't be able to trace something back to that college in Mississippi that claims they had created it for.
I mean, with the DNA test, maybe you could, yeah, actually.
Okay.
But from my understanding, the black nose ones are totally they're just a different color morph.
Avid Fisherman says, Koaw, what's the growth rate of bluegills and sunfish? He's asking.
Oh, well, growth rates are tricky because they are totally water dependent. There are so many variables. Down south, you're going to get faster growth rates because you have warmer waters for a longer period of time. It also depends on when, like from the hatchling, like when it's born. If it's born early in the season, it's going to have a longer growing season before that winter starvation period, right? So it'll grow more. Growth rate is really dependent on food source and even abundance. If you've got a pond full of a whole bunch of bluegill or a whole bunch of species, they're going to grow smaller because there's less food source. It's a stunted population usually in those situations. Probably on each species I threw on, maybe I should throw on more growth rate information, but I can't give you a definite answer. Like Mark, you were saying before, it depends.
It depends.
Good answer because yes, growth rate it's highly dependent on many variables.
Yeah, until our conversation with Bob Lusk, that show that I was telling you about, I didn't realize how much even water quality has to do with growth rate, and the health of fish that live in those waters. So
Definitely. So I'm sorry, my growth rate answer has to be a bit broad to whoever asked that, but that's what it is.
That was Avid.
There's
Richard Fishing of Freedom says, I use river carp sucker for bait. It is in the sucker family? Question mark.
is it in the sucker family, right?
Yeah.
river
Looks
carp
more
sucker.
like a buffalo or a quillback.
Pretty sure a river carp sucker is a sucker. I'm gonna grab a book real quick.
Hey,
Nope, it's one thing you never say you know it if you don't know it for sure.
I
You
agree.
keep talking and I'll look it up.
That's fine. We got Slick, moderator extraordinaire, in chat tonight.
What's going on, Slick? And I see fish in the Mid-South. What's going on?
JG Hill Studio has joined us also. There was somebody else, P&B Catfishing, aka Paul Boyd. Welcome, Paul.
What's up, Paul?
Your guest from Monday nights on here, Title Weight and Sinkers.
And to answer the river carp sucker, yeah, I was having a hard time picturing what that was. That is Carpoides, so that is just like the quillback, same genus. So let's see, the river carp sucker. Oh, you're no way you're gonna see that with the glare.
Here, let me help you out though.
I got a friggin' light on.
Yeah,
That's okay.
that's okay.
I'm sorry, guys.
That's all right. You got the answer. That's the main thing.
The live stream struggle is real. Trust us, we know it.
But no, that's one thing I learned a while ago. Don't be afraid to say I don't know, and also, if you can look something up, do it. And that's what I always encourage people to do, because a lot of people also think, I'm a walking encyclopedia, but it's like, a lot of times I have to go seek out this information just like everybody else.
And that now I got another question for you. Do you recommend any books for identifying fish that are better than others?
This remains the North American standard. It's a little aged. This is Page and Burr, the Peterson Field Guide to North American Fishes.
Okay.
This is one of my favorites.
How does that match up to something like the Audubon Guide, which is what I have?
I mean, that's great as well.
It's a good one too.
I won't say that. I think those cumulative guides, I've seen them. They're all at a great level. I just really feel that the one that Page and Bird put together is so great. The problem is that they're not going to update this guide, and species are always being added. There's always changes being made to systematics and taxonomy. So sometimes fish get moved from one group or one genus to another one. Like with the common sunfishes, we're probably going to see that long-eared species complex get broken up, and some state officials are actually doing it. I just wait on, and a lot of other people wait for Catalog of Fishes, which is Eschmeyer and Fong's catalog. That's the authoritative source saying this is a species and this isn't. So that's what I'm waiting on before I officially say, yes, the long-eared species complex is broken up. When they say it's official, then I'll agree with that.
There you go.
Sorry if I'm rambling.
No,
not at all.
It's perfect. Avid also would like to know, would a lake that's been stocked with bass for several years affect a crappie population in the same lake?
Well, that's another. It depends, but yes, invariably the two populations will affect each other. To what degree depends, because those species do quite well coexisting in so many bodies of water. I mean, that question, it requires more details. It's I got to do a mark. It depends. It depends.
Yeah,
it depends.
But
What
It's
a,
priceless, isn't it?
I mean, and then you got to say that. Otherwise, I don't want to throw out some BS.
If there's no definite answer, and science is, what the act of investigating and learning and building on what we already know to find what we don't know. I mean, there's no better answer than that. So
that's right. Welcome, Rob. Glad to have High 61 South Outdoors join us.
what's up, Rob? Let me ask you this: what's the rarest species of fish you ever came across? Whether it's been with someone else or whether it's something that you've caught yourself.
The rarest species of fish. It might have been when I was in New Jersey last fall. I was coming back from Massachusetts, and I stopped in their coastal plains because I wanted to catch a few more. I wanted to catch some smaller little pickerel for the guide I was working on. So I was using small hooks, and I ended up catching a black-banded sunfish, which if you Google that, it's just what you see in aquariums. They actually sell them in the aquarium trade, but it's a protected fish there. There's no way I could target it, but it's just a little itty bitty fish. Let me see if I can get
I'm actually looking it up right now. This is why I'm here to do all this stuff, the grunt work, right, Lyle?
That's right.
Here we go.
Here we go. Maybe. Oh yeah. That's the black-banded sunfish. So they're tiny. Like they don't get that
Yeah,
big.
here's an example of size, I guess.
Here.
Mm-hmm.
Here.
A couple of fingers wide.
Yeah, they're
Wow.
very small, and I've captured all of the species in this genus so far, but there's only 3. So I was thinking I'd make another guide on how to ID them. But what's really tricky is that the banded sunfish and the blue spotted sunfish, you wouldn't know them because you don't have them out there. They're pretty much strictly on the East Coast here. There's so much introgression, which just means shared genetics in so many different little populations that it's almost impractical for me to try to help people ID it just on looks.
Eric Pierce says, thanks for having the guest. That's Koaw. Lots of great info. Check out his website. He's got lots of good information there.
Yeah.
Check out his YouTube channel. Link to his YouTube channel is in the description. Go over there, give him a sub. Check out his videos. You're going to learn a lot and enjoy it while you're learning. So
here's a great question that was brought up because I know this to be true. They use a perch for now I believe they're white perch. They use them for bait to catch blue catfish and other species of catfish out in North Carolina, South Carolina, different places. And they put them in there. Now they can't get rid of them. And they do eat a lot of other species' eggs during the spawn. And the guys want to know why the government introduces species into a certain body of water. Now, you may have a different outlook for this, but my understanding was the reason they done it was for a food source for those other fish. But I might be wrong about that.
I don't know the definite reason. I'm assuming that's got to be white perch. Right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's not a huge game species. So a lot of species of fishes are just introduced when they're game fishes for sport, but that's not a big sport fish.
Mm-mm.
So that's a great question, Mr. J.G. Hill Studio.
I was under the impression that it was for a food source for the other fish, but now I might be wrong about that.
I know in North Carolina they tried to introduce the northern pike, and they didn't have any success with that, but they were trying to introduce that for sport, which is they should be considering themselves happy it didn't stick as a game fish.
I agree.
That would mess up a lot of their native, especially like the minnows and those native species. I'm very curious. I'd look it up now, but then I'd just end up reading for a while on things.
I understand. Northern pike. I caught one here a few years ago. We make an annual trip to Mendota Lake in Wisconsin, and we go catching big channel cat. It's just a ton of fun. You should make the trip with us.
Well, that was
Those things are the slimiest damn fish I ever held in my hand.
nice.
They're horrible. I
I
didn't
don't
even
know.
touch them after the first one.
I've held 2 blue cats in my hands, and they beat a pike any day in a week.
But they're
I don't know
blue
what
cat.
What about American eel? Has got to be the slimiest.
Oh yeah,
you know?
yeah. I have to agree with you there. They're nasty.
I've eaten American eel. I've never caught one or had one in my presence.
If you
other
net
than-
one, they'll go through every hole in that net. It's
Yeah, northern pike though. I probably harvest more northern pike than any other fish.
Really?
Yeah, they're tasty, aren't they?
I love
Really?
it. Because a lot of people are just hesitant to go about it because of the Y bones, and they don't like.
But there's a way to get those out, right?
There are. Yeah, there's a good method for that.
It's called pickling them.
You know that's a way to do it. You fillet it normally and just pickle that top cut.
And those are delicious. Mwah.
Mm.
I have another topic that I'd like to touch on.
Yeah.
So I call it selective harvest because that's what a lot of the great fishermen in the past come up with, coined that term. I did not. I just use it because it's one of the great terms. We talked before the show. Since COVID hit, there's a lot more catch and cooks than there ever was before. I think that's a great thing. A lot of people say, "Oh, you can't catch it." Yes, you can. You just you return the big fish, the breeding size fish. If you want to not harvest something, say return the breeders. The smaller fish are better eaten anyhow. But in my opinion, and I think that I would like your input on this, if you don't take some of them out, I fish a little pond here local to me, and the fish are no longer at about this size. And that's as big as the bass are going to be. And it's so overpopulated, they fight for food, and they end up not getting very big. They're healthy fish, but the guy told me, he said, I've have crappie and bluegill in there. Well, I've fished that a few times, and all I catch is those bass. Makes me think they're keeping the population of the bluegill and the crappie down. Would you agree with some of those things I've said?
Well, yeah, I first off, I totally agree with the selective harvest, as you call it, and I wish more anglers took the approach of, especially with bass and certain other species, don't go after the big females, don't go after the big breeding males. Let those genes go into the next population, especially on the bass. The 14, 15 inches that's the good eating. That's my preference and size on those ones. And especially on panfish, like crappie populations, common sunfishes, when you take out those big males and those big females, that's why you start a lot of times. I won't say all the time because that would be bad science, but you get those stunted populations. You're taking out the big females, big males, and then it's the smaller males, the smaller females that are going to be moving up in the slot to breed, and it's a cascading effect.
Back to like panfish. I have a pond here that's got some really big panfish that I love to fish there. And every now and then I'll get like a monster male, a big bull bluegill. They got the big old lump on the top of their head and everything.
Yeah.
I always make sure to put them big bulls back because in my thought process, they're the ones that are guarding the nests.
Yes.
So they're gonna get at least those fish to fry, correct, before they leave the nest. And I think that's a good way of going about it too. And obviously the females, I kind of like during the spawn, even during the crappie spawn. I know a lot of people think they're easy pickings, but I usually won't keep anything during the spawn. I'll usually throw them all back, let them do their thing. But once that spawn's over, it's game time. I don't care what anybody says, but that's just my personal thing. And the selective harvest is something like that. Also, I've heard some anglers say that let's say a flathead catfish, for instance. Not that I'm asking specifically about that, but this is the scenario that I've heard them say this at. The chances of them getting bigger than 10 pounds is slim to none. Like a 1 out of 10 is going to make it larger than 10 pounds. What is it the same kind of percentage rate for, let's say, trophy bluegill, trophy crappie, and so on?
No. You mean like a nice 10-inch bluegill, 1 out of
Yeah,
10?
I mean, well, I guess what was explained to me was that they either die of disease or they're eaten, or
Well,
or something along that lines. They just don't make it to get to any trophy size.
Are you talking about the flathead don't get to trophy size?
I'm asking if it means if it works the same way for other species like bluegills and
Well,
green
all
sunfish.
right. So most all fishes they'll keep growing every year of their life. They're not like us humans where we kind of plateau, and fish will grow every year and they'll be slow. Most of the time, I mean, if it allows for it, the situation, the habitat, a fish will grow until, depending on how old the species can get. So it shouldn't depend. All right, I know I'm messing this answer up because it's tricky.
I think I messed the question up, to be honest with you.
It's a 10-inch bluegill is really going to depend on more things other than just disease. I don't know. There's a lot to that. I know I messed that up for you.
That's okay. I'll rephrase my question and I'll ask you. I'll contact you. I'll ask you, and then maybe we'll have another one of these.
I appreciate that.
Soon.
With the breeding fish, regardless of the species, the female lays one nest of eggs per time that she's on. Correct?
No.
Oh,
It. There are many different ways of releasing gametes and fertilization in fishes. With the sunfishes, the males build nests, and females will usually release most of their eggs in one go, but not always. Sometimes they'll save a little, go to another nest. Sometimes, it'll be multiple females going to one nest, one guy. Sometimes there's just, it's highly variable. Keep that in mind with fishes, even within, between a green sunfish and a bluegill, they have totally different mating rituals. So, all right. Does that help? Does that convince you to change your question a little bit?
well, I haven't got to the question yet. I already learned more than I knew. My question was, does the male guard the eggs in more than one nest?
A male will have one nest, and in sunfishes, the male will guard it.
But only one.
Only one nest.
But the female, they're going to play around a little bit.
It depends on the species. Most largemouth bass are monogamous. However, it's been observed that a couple females with largemouth bass will go to one male, so he'll have multiple females go into his nest. With bluegill, a big male is going to try to mate with as many females as he can get to his nest. And then there's also the sneakers and the satellites within bluegill. So
right,
you've heard of these. These are the male, Mark, you were talking about earlier with the lump on the head, that bluegill. That's what you call a parental male. That is the guy on the nest. He's doing the daddy work. He will guard the eggs until the swim up stage when they hatch and just come up. But the sneakers, the satellites, they're smaller males, and what they're doing is they're waiting for a female to go in to that parental male, and she'll drop her eggs, and that sneaker will come in and drop his sperm on her eggs while the big male is dropping his sperm.
So there's such a thing as a backdoor bluegill, is what you're telling me.
That's what I'm saying.
All right.
There's some dirty techniques in that world.
If you guys that are watching don't find this stuff interesting, I don't know what to tell you. It's just...
And, something fascinating I read the other day that I wasn't even aware of is that, so obviously the parental male, all of the eggs that get fertilized, they're not going to be his unless he does an absolutely fantastic job. But apparently through pheromones, when those eggs hatch, he can tell which offspring are his, and he will go and eat the eggs that were not fertilized by him.
Oh, man.
Wow.
Is that not impressive?
That is.
impressive. Now,
It's just
do the females choose the males by their coloration or by their size or a combination of more than one thing?
that's a great question, and it's their coloration, it's their size, it's how well they're dancing. Like I mentioned earlier, the red ear sunfish is constantly flapping out that red ear. Some species actually use ultraviolet signals, so we couldn't be able to see it with our eyes, but they could see it. There's the grunting noises going on with the bluegill. There's just a plethora of activities. It's like when you want to maybe get the girl to go to the prom with you. You're gonna buy her flowers. You're gonna wear a nice tuxedo. You want to look as sharp as you can. They're doing these things to impress. And
the males, that's in any species, they're the pretty ones, right?
in a lot of species, yeah, it's
Easy there, fellas. You're going to get us in trouble.
it's sometimes it's a term called peacocking, right?
Peacocking.
Male
That's what came to mind. You mentioned something about bass being monogamous. Is that for their life or is that just for the spawn?
just for that season.
For the season.
And that's it's not like a complete. It's a majority of
For the most part.
but it's not a high percentage. It's just the highest percentage. So
Gotcha.
Anybody else has any more questions for Koaw? Now is the time because we have had a great show tonight, and I've enjoyed having him on here. So if you got any questions,
I think I confused Koa more than not. So
no, I just wanted to be careful on how I answered.
I understand.
And I apologize on that one.
Brad over at Title Weights and Sinkers says, how would you go about removing an overpopulation of bluegills in a pond responsibly?
Well, how big's the pond? That's the next question. Because if you can net it, if you can do a thing where you get a couple guys and you can just seine that thing out and literally just hand pick out what species you want and don't want and what fish you want to keep. Otherwise, a lot of times people, when they're restarting a pond, they just poison it. And
they did that to my prime green sunfish spot for catching flathead bait. Can you believe that?
Oh,
I can't believe anybody.
I used to be able to fill a bucket with 30 of them in 30 minutes. No joke. Now I can't get a single one out of there.
Yeah,
I mean, my heart.
That's definitely hard if it happens to a population you like catching.
Yeah.
Ryan said the 10-foot cast net works well.
Yeah, that'll do it.
2 acres. That's for the pond. That's massive. So the netting option is kind of that would be you could just set out a lot of other types of nets and selectively pull out 50 at a time. But like I said, usually biologists, they don't waste time. They want something done, they poison the whole thing.
Yeah.
What you got to do is find some flathead fishermen that live near you and give them access to said pond.
That's a great idea.
They'll take good care of it for you.
Yep. Richard with Fishing and Freedom says, so can all fish see in UV?
No, not all fish can see in UV.
I didn't think so, but wasn't sure.
Some can. And a lot of the UV visibility is actually in certain fishes that live in coral reefs. So obviously it's got to be fish that are going to be in water that they'll be shallow water because UV actually does not penetrate far into water at all. Yes, Stephanie, bluegill grunts.
It's hard work making them female fish happy. It really is.
Yeah. I mean, we all know about the the group of fish is called the grunts, and that's where they get their name from, because they
I
grunt.
agree. Man, I have enjoyed this show as much as any I ever did. I really have enjoyed having you as a guest on here. We're running just over an hour, which is okay because you know there's not a per se show like this on afterwards after us, but um, I usually tell people that are great guests if they would like to come on, we would love to have them back. I want to make sure you want to do this again
I
because
I appreciate. I've had a lot of fun with you guys, and I've enjoyed your community here and what they've been saying.
well, I think that they really enjoyed having you on here, and I know that I have, and the information you have shared with us is just priceless. But I would love to have you back on here in a couple of months or three, and because I know you're busy and your schedule is going to be tight, but we'll set it up in a long distance thing, and then if we have to change it to work around you, that'd be awesome because I think there's a whole lot more out there that we can share and talk about than what we got done in 1 hour.
And definitely, I mean, I felt like I wanted to pull more information from you guys. I didn't get anything from you today. I'll just have to I'll watch more of your videos. That's what I get. I got some good tips from you guys, even some line tips before.
Well, I want to tell you right up front, I wish you the very best of getting into Southern Illinois University. I hope that you make that happen. And please, when you do get a hold of me, and I will make a special effort to go down so we can get together and fish. If nothing else, we'll have dinner or something. But I'm so excited to have you on here, and you've done a great job with doing this for the very first time. You was a natural at it, so
Appreciate that.
we get you back on here and have more questions, and I think that people are really going to enjoy this.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think if you head up north here in Northern Illinois, I'm around too. If you got any questions or need to know where to go to find X, Y, or Z, I'll be happy to help you. But Ryan has a question. I know exactly why he's asking this too, so I'm going to make sure I get this one in. He says, "Do sunfish make noise like grunting when they are spooked or afraid?"
You know, I've heard air come out of them before that sounds like a grunt, but I don't think it's actually the mechanism for their grunting when they're mating.
Okay.
I think I do know. I know what you're talking about. I've pondered that myself.
Like when there's a big flathead swimming around it, is he going to get scared and start grunting at him?
Oh no,
Or calling them in when they're scared?
if
That's
they're in the
why he's
water,
asking.
the last thing they want to do is attract attention to a flathead because
That's a fact.
that's a if they're lucky enough, because the flathead's the lion weight predator, right?
It
Yeah, pretty
is.
much.
They don't. If they see the flathead, they're gonna get
Mhm.
right out of town.
I tell you the thing that amazes me, and I know we're not supposed to talk about catfishing on this show, is what we do all the time, but a flathead does not have to be very big to scare the bejesus out of a bluegill because they know a bluegill this big will fit into a 5 pound flathead's mouth with no problem.
Yep. Yep.
They probably watch some of their buddies go through that.
Yep.
But
Yeah. No. Thank you so much for having me. This has been a lot of fun.
oh man, it's awesome to have it on here, and I want the people to go over and check your website out and subscribe and give you a couple of hook sets because you deserve them all, and the information that you have shared with us tonight, like I say, it's priceless to me, and I know that the people in chat enjoyed it. Hang on with us while we close out. We'll talk about some stuff. I got a guy that wants to visit with you a little bit after the show. Mark, have you got any closing statements?
Nope, I do not. I confused us all.
That's on me too.
Well, everybody, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We will get Koa back on here and we'll do this again because I think that it was a really fun show. Monday nights, Catfish Weekly at 7, followed by Mark's Catfish and Crappie podcast at 8. Now, these are Central times, and then we'll be back here after the bait shop next week at 8 Central, Panfish Weekly. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you then.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Koa.
Thank you.